Hey guys, SickMotion here with the patch 7.13 notes. One thing I'll say before starting the patch notes, I've been doing the time change. I think I talked about it last patch note video, testing out, switching my stream times around a bit. One of the things that does is it doesn't allow me to play on the PvE. Well, I still could go play on the PvE, but I'm not online when the patch hits. So the servers don't go down while I'm there, and the reason I play on the PvE before the times that I did and got to test out a lot of the new stuff was because the NA server would actually be down, so rather than streaming nothing, I would go on the PvE and play whatever was on there. So it allowed me the opportunity to actually test out a bunch of stuff without kind of going out of my way from what I normally would be doing. Basically, I didn't have to choose to go and do it. I was kind of like my only option. So a lot of the stuff that I won't actually have been able to test, some of the bigger changes that I might have been able to before, unless I decide I may in the future go on the PvE and do stuff with that. Like, for example, the new champion. I actually haven't really looked at anything more than just a quick glance. I'll probably do that after this, but I'm pretty sure he's on the PvE for testing, but I haven't played him at all or anything, so kind of one of the sucky things, but I could go and play on the PB, I guess, but I just thought I would state that. So a lot of the stuff in here I might have not actually tested out as I might have if I was going on the PB frequently like I used to every couple weeks. So the start of this patch is the new honor system. The old one was kind of completely dead and redundant, so making a change to it or taking it out of the game I think was one of the things that would probably make sense with it. So they made a new one. I haven't tested out the new honor system at all. I'm not going to go over it too much. I'm sure you'll see it a lot over the course of the stream or any other streams or even in your own gameplay, and it'll kind of teach itself to you. But basically, you start at an honor level. You can go upwards from there. I'm assuming that you start at level 2, like they say, so that shows that you can also go downwards from there if you're a dick. There's things you can honor people for. You get a shout out if most of your team honors you, I guess. If everyone on your team participates in an honor vote, everyone from that team receives a small honor boost to their honor level progress. At level 3 and above, receiving honor in the post-game screen unlocks a loading flare for your next game. Your loading flare designs level up as you do. And now the only way to get key fragments from games is from honor. You have to be at least level 2, so if you drop below level 2, you're no longer getting those free key fragments, if those interest you. And after level 3, you receive honor capsules as well as key fragments. These don't require a key to open and contain at least 2 key fragments. Some also contain champ shards and exclusive rewards like Medieval Twitch and Grey Warwick's skin permanence. So there's some exclusive rewards just to the honor system. I mean, I don't know if it's going to work or not work. Only time will tell with that. But if you're seeing it, that's kind of just a rundown of what it actually is. And the actual game changes. Galio's base armor is down to 24 from 27. When you're that low on armor and then you get a nerf of 3, that's actually quite substantial. So that's going to hurt his early game against anyone who pokes with physical or does physical or even minion damage for that matter. His Q has a lower base damage but a bit of a higher AP ratio. So to kind of encourage you to actually maybe build an AP item. And his channel time is an extra quarter second. Hover time before dashing reduced by a quarter second. Total time to reach the target unchanged. I think that kind of gives you more of an opportunity to interrupt it or see that he's kind of trying to escape with it if he's using it as an escape. Just more reaction time, because right now it's kind of like he's using it, he's gone. Changes to Gnar. These are actually pretty nice for Gnar. His E, so his jump in Mega form has 125 increased range. It's really nice because the jump in Mega form kind of just feels really tiny, and it doesn't feel like it really gets you anywhere just because of the size of your character model also plays a role in like the perception of that. But this will actually let you set up your combos I know I haven't played Gnar in a while, but sometimes I would jump and then I would use my W for the stun, but they'd be just out of range. But with that little extra jump range, that will actually maybe have them be in range. It'll make it a lot easier to get your wombo off. Gnar's wombo combo is really strong, but it's also one of the harder ones to land in a sequence in a team fight when people are ready for it, compared to someone else who you just like have to push all your buttons instantly. And his boomerang throw has gotten, not at level 1, but at level 2 onwards, it gets an extra 10 damage for each level. So at level 5 of your boomerang, you'll be getting an extra 40 base damage. So that'll help with farming, that'll help with harassing, that'll just help in general with his lane right now. I haven't played Gnar in a while. I was thinking about him recently, so maybe I'll test out these changes a little bit. Kennen nerf kind of in some changes. He got higher AP ratio on his E. Most people have been doing AD Kennen because it's just really safe and really easy to pull off in lane. His W no longer scales off total attack damage, but it has a base plus bonus attack damage plus an AP ratio, so you actually get rewarded for building AP. So there's 2 things to an AP Kennen that gets a bit of a buff. And Electrical Surge now stacks when Kennen fires a basic attack instead of on hit. So attack speed will still help it, but the Runin's Hurricane, similar to like what was happening with Caitlyn, will no longer make you be able to stack that up a lot more efficiently. So that part is really nice for dealing with the AD Kennen. AD Kennen typically falls off later on though, so that's kind of just more of a fall off for him, and then more reasons to play AP Kennen. Kha'Zix's lower base damage on Q, lower bonus AD ratio, but higher isolation bonus damage, so you'll get more rewarded for actually playing the character with its kind of unique trait there. And no one really levels up the R as far as an evolution, just because the W slow is just so obnoxious if you catch an isolated target, so they changed it to make it a little bit better. Your invisibility duration on your R just in general is an extra quarter second, but the evolved invisibility duration when you enter a bush out of combat, you become invisible for an extra half second, so it's 3 rather than 2.5, and you leave the bush and become invisible for an extra quarter second to match the just initial invisibility, this word's hard, duration change from the first comment there. So he'll be able to path from bush to bush in the jungle, staying invisible a lot more consistently. So I think that's the kind of cool kind of fantasy, like a predator assassin play that just doesn't get very much attention simply because it's just not as efficient of a and more as reliable as a build for your skills. Just the opportunity cost doesn't balance out. Kindred, some buffs here. She now gains an extra 25 range after the initial big increase every 3 stacks rather than every 4. So you'll be getting more range more quickly and have more range with the same amount of stacks. 12 stacks now will give you 100 range rather than 75 before. The Wolf's Frenzy additional damage per mark is increased. It's doubled actually, so rather than 0.5% of the enemy's current health, it's 1%. So if you had 10 marks now, instead of doing 5% of their current health, you'll be doing 10%. That's pretty substantial when you look at it that way. It's only with the W, obviously. And E just has a higher base on it now. So I honestly haven't really seen Kindred other than Kindred one trick since the changes. So I mean, probably needed a buff. Maokai's base health is up 25, and the ultimate goes further. I mean, it's slow as hell, so going further might make it feel a bit better. Maokai's ultimate I've seen be the most effective if it's follow-up CC, or if you're ulting from the direction that they'd want to be running to. So if they're like kind of near your tower diving maybe with numbers, and you teleport mid lane on like a bot lane gank, and you're between them and their tower, and then you're ulting from the direction that they need to run to for safety, so they basically have to run into your ult, then it's a lot less lackluster watching it kind of fizzle out and go super slow and unimpressive. Also the cooldown is down 10 seconds at level 11 and 20 seconds at level 16 for your level 3 ult. This is actually kind of nice. I've been playing Poppy lately. I've been enjoying playing Poppy, and I've been doing really well playing Poppy when everyone's kind of been like, why are you playing Poppy? She's useless. I pick her into the situations that she does well, where if there's like a lot of dashes, or if there's people you can run down, and just in lanes that she kind of can do well so that you're not completely screwed. I've been enjoying playing her, but now her AD ratio, or sorry, her max health ratio damage on her Q is up from 7% to 8%. So, I mean, little bit of a nudge in the positive direction for a champion that I've been playing anyway and having success on before the buff, so that'll be cool. Spells killed while attacking are handled better on Rek'Sai. Kind of just a quality of life polish up. Now it takes the same amount of time to unburrow whether you press W or attack the target. Kind of weird that there was a difference in those two. Knockback on secondary targets no longer lasts longer than intended. Void Rush bonus AD ratio is up. Actually, I've been saying Rek'Sai's doing too much damage and then they buff an AD ratio. Not what I expected. Shaco, this change just makes sense. It doesn't make sense that his E was doing magic damage. Never really made sense to me the whole time. I'm pretty sure he still has all the same AP ratios on it. Or I don't know if it has I might be thinking of something completely different. But I know people still play AP Shaco. It'd be interesting to see if you can like build AP but still have a lot of physical damage from the AP ratios, like with his Q. Kind of like when champions get magic damage from AD ratios. Lets you build hybrid and make it hard to itemize against. But yeah, his 2-shift poison base damage is higher. It's a lot higher at early levels actually. 5 damage to 50. The total attack damage ratio was 0.75, but now it's actually off of bonus attack damage, which makes sense there. So you're not going to have that much bonus attack damage early on, so the base damage earlier makes more sense. And now deals additional 50% damage based on the target's missing health, so it'll just be amping up the initial damage that you get from your ratios rather than a percentage of their missing health based on the character level. Percentage of their missing health makes it do, I mean, more damage if they're missing more health, obviously, but I think the way that they've changed it to will make it a lot more reliable for what they want it to do as a kind of an execute. So Trundle hasn't been touched in a while. He did get nerfed where his Q, you could still use it as an auto attack against towers, but it wouldn't spend the charge. Think about Jax's W, where if you auto attack a tower, reset your auto with your W, you may get a Sheen proc out of that, but it doesn't spend your W, so you have to attack a minion or something else before it spends your W. 2 parts of that. Doesn't do extra damage to the tower, other than the Sheen proc, if you want to calculate that. But it also doesn't go on to cooldown until its active time goes off. So you use the W, or in this case Trundle's Q, as an auto attack reset. It's active on your auto attack if you hit someone for the next X amount of seconds, say, let's just say 5, because I actually don't know how long it stays active for. Exactly. 5 seconds pass, unless you hit a minion or something, but if you're just hitting the tower, 5 seconds pass, and then it goes on cooldown, and you have to wait the cooldown, and then get it back up to do that again as an auto attack reset, basically. Now it goes on cooldown right away because it spends it, and it also does that extra damage to the tower, so it's far, far, far more effective than just actually applying damage to the tower, because you'll be able to auto attack reset far more often, and get that extra damage on the tower far more often than you'd be from before. The attack following Chomp now are more consistent timing and scales better with attack speed. So if you're auto-attacking on Trundle with a lot of attack speed, say you built a Bork or a Trinity Force and you're standing in your W at max level, you'll be going auto, 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 Q, auto, 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 auto. It kind of slows down the rhythm, so that makes sense that they kind of make that more smooth. And the increased healing and regeneration on his W, 25% from 20. It was already giving 25% lifesteal, but there was a bug where it wasn't giving 25% from other sources. It was only giving 20. So like extra healing from other people, regen stuff, that basically anything that wasn't lifesteal. So I might actually play some Trundle as well, Trundle and Gnar coming up here. Attack Lockout now scales with attack speed on Zaya's Q. Rammus's dance moves now scale with move speed. Probably the most important change of this entire... I'm surprised that wasn't just at the top as far as meaningful, big, impactful, major kind of reworky changes. That one's huge. This is really nice here, actually. This is... I really like this. We'll just... we'll put it at that. Catalyst plus Negatron builds into the Abyssal Mask, which is basically the Abyssal Scepter. No longer gives base health regen, but I'm assuming it still gives the old stats that it did, because it doesn't say it removed them, so it still makes enemies near you take 10% more magic damage from yourself and your team, as well as give you 10% CDR. So it's still a health magic resist item, for tanks mainly, focused on amplifying damage, but also giving that cooldown reduction. They made 3 items build out of the Spectre's Cowl, which were all relatively similar. They're all magic resist cooldown reduction items. But you were only usually going to be building one. Building more than one kind of felt weird. So this kind of gives this one a unique identity. So if you already have, say, a Spirit Visage, and you still want more magic resistance or cooldown reduction magic resistance, or just the Abyssal passive, you can now build this. It builds out of a Catalyst and the Negatron. The Catalyst is really interesting on tank champions. So like people building a lot of Doran's Rings on Galio, for example, it lets you sustain your mana up and do a little more damage with the AP ratio, but mainly you sustain your mana up. Catalyst will let you sustain your mana up, but it also gives you the healing for spending it. So it gives you a lot of lane sustain both with your mana and your health. I always have thought that it'd be just super good in a lot of situations, other than it doesn't really have a final build path that I'm wanting. I don't want to commit too much into it and go like a Rod of Ages or a GLP on like a tank champion. And I mean, they did make the change recently to I guess they changed the Righteous Glory to not actually have this as part of the path, if I remember correctly. I never build that item. But the Righteous Glory was kind of what you would build the Catalyst into. This makes a lot more sense for the Catalyst, and I really like it. The change that they made here with it. I think it'll... I just think it makes a lot of sense, and I think that this will actually give the item... You can't just look at items from what they give you from a finalized point. You kind of want to look at items that'll... what their build path gives you. What makes its build path unique and more efficient in certain situations. It's not always just a final combination. And maybe you don't want the Abyssal right away, but you will want one later in the game. You can build that Catalyst early in lane, sit on it, and then maybe finish it as your 4th item, but reap the benefits of having the Catalyst in lane. I really like this change. So I'm excited for that as well. Adaptive Helm, 50 more health. Man, its health was way too low. I was building Spirit Visage in games that I would probably be considering an Adaptive Helm just because its health was just pathetic, so that makes sense. Ancient Coin and rewards are better now. Zeke's Convergent has a new picture. Jungle items. So all jungle items now give higher base mana regen in the jungle. So tanky jungles that would be building a Cinder Hulk, Gragas, Amumu, Galio, would often go with the Runic Echoes just because it sustains your mana a lot more effectively, lets you clear more, and just be a lot more efficient with your opportunity cost in the jungle, so now you get more regen here. And because of that, the Runic Echoes now gives 5%, or sorry, 3% less mana based on your missing mana. So, makes sense there. Bami's Cinder, so this isn't just the jungle item, this is what builds into the Sunfire as well, now costs 200 gold less. It's a Ruby Crystal plus 500 rather than a Ruby Crystal plus 700. It gives you 80 less health, which is the trade-off for that 200 gold. That's not very efficient, honestly. 80 health for 200 gold. Actually, I think I'm confusing myself. 80 health for 200 gold is about the same price as health because the Ruby Crystal gives 150 for 400. Scratch that. The bonus damage to non-champions is now 100% from 50. I would often build a Cinder, but not fully put it into a Sunfire because you don't get that much more dueling potential. Well, like at all. You do get more damage to the minions, but what's the trade-off? You're paying an extra 1,800 gold to just do clear waves a little better. What if you just bought other items and saved that 1,800 gold? Like, it kind of reminds me of a Cull in a way, where you buy the item, and yeah, it's going to be efficient in the long run because it lets you get more money from farming. This lets you farm faster, not an exact trade-off, but you still have to pay off the item after buying it. And that's kind of what buying the Sunfire from the Cinder does. So this gives you more bonus damage to jungle monsters and minions, just non-champions. So it's not going to give you any more dueling potential, a little bit less health. But for 900 gold, it feels like far less of a rough purchase, as well as thinking on your first back, sometimes you don't have 1,100 gold. Or sometimes you do, but you have like 1,200 gold. And you don't necessarily want to get a Cinder. Maybe you want to get a Ruby Crystal and some other items. Now you can get the Cinder and a Cloth Armor, for example. The 200 less gold on an item that a lot of tank champions will be wanting to build like first item in lane is really, really helpful. And that's not even going into the effects that it'll have for helping early tank jungles clear. So that's a really positive change as well. As far as what I would be using it for, I look at it pretty biased that way. So the Cinder Hulk as well. It actually has a higher bonus health multiplier, lower base health, but higher bonus health, and is 200 gold cheaper as well because of the Cinder reduction. So the Cinder Hulk will actually be a lot stronger too. Sunfire's build path was also changed to be more efficient. It's the same... Excuse me, I didn't want to cough in the mic. It's the same total cost. Same stats, I'm assuming, but it's a Cinder plus a Ruby Crystal plus a Chain Vest plus 800 gold. Since Cinder gives less, you can add a Ruby Crystal into her without going over the actual base stats of the Sunfire. So it's an easier build path, especially since you're building it as one of your earlier items usually. If you're actually finishing the Sunfire, you're usually building it like first or second probably at the latest. You're not really worrying about it later on as much unless like a special situation occurs. So having the 3 items in the build path doesn't really limit yourself by inventory space, whereas I'm still saying the Randuin's build path is so garbage because it's an item that you don't care about that reduction in crit early, the attack speed as much. Like Randuin's is an item that's really strong in what it does, but it's usually ending up being like a 3rd, 4th, or 5th item on tanks. So if you're building it out of a pretty large combination cost, even if you have the items, plus 2 Ruby Crystals, plus the Warden's Mail, it's just so inefficient on inventory space that I often don't end up getting it, even though I would rather have it over what I end up getting. But it's just so much more efficient to build anything other than that. Loading screen tips, awesome. Vision score is now displayed on your trinket tooltip. There's now a random button in normal blind pick games. Not really anything cool in the bug fixes that I looked over, and adding the functionality to buy skins and champ select again starting in this patch, and all the SKT skins are coming out as well. So there we go. Bit of a shorter patch. I went in a little bit more detail, even though it was a shorter patch. There's a lot of very significant changes to stuff that I would build and stuff that affect kind of like top lane in general. That I kind of emphasized a lot on in there. So I'm excited. That Abyssal Mask change is really big. The Cinder change is really helpful. Like I said, I've been playing Poppy lately, so the Cinder change with Poppy's buff, both going to be helpful as well. Might consider playing Gnar too, and the Catalyst on the Abyssal Mask. Just being able to build the Catalyst and knowing that it's not just a dead end build path. It's similar, not in its use, but a similar feel to, I often build Executioner's Calling on like a tank champion or a champion that's not going to be building a Last Whisper, just because it helps against the lane matchup like Swain, Gragas, Fiora, Vladimir, if anyone plays that champion top anymore. Basically anybody who has a lot of sustain or lifesteal in lane, Zac, if you're laning against Zac Mundo. But you're just holding on to that Executioner's Calling until the end of the game, then you're selling it. Catalyst kind of filled the same role, except Executioner's Calling is kind of helpful throughout the game rather than Catalyst just being a lane thing. But now you can actually turn it into something and feel a little bit better about building it, and it kind of addresses the issue of stacking Dorans, at least from a tank's perspective, I feel. So that's good. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Continuing on with the time changes, continuing testing them. I've done it for 2 weeks now. This is the 3rd week on them. I think I'm going to be testing them for a while now. I'm not necessarily sticking with them, but I've obviously decided to continue testing them, so I'm considering staying with them. So we'll just continue to see how it goes. Social media links as well as that stream link are in the description as always. I do read the comments. I don't always reply to them. Rarely do actually reply to them, but I do read them, so if there's anything you want to say in there or see differently done or something you like, didn't like, etc., I can put it in there and I will see it. And other than that, guys, thank you for watching. Take it easy and we'll see you next time.